Coordinate Algebra, the Orange Lesson, Subtracting Linear Functions. Linear functions. Well, let's get ourselves some. F of x equals 16x plus 10. G of x equals negative 4x minus 12. H of x equals negative 8x plus 20. K of x equals 6x plus 42. Why do we use function notation? Well, how are we going to tell the difference between our four different functions? By using function notations, we've given a name or a designation to each one of our linear functions. Subtracting linear functions. Well, let's try. K of x subtract h of x. So what was k of x? 6x plus 42. Now we're going to subtract negative 8x plus 20. We are going to combine like terms, but we're not going to add them. We're going to subtract them. So we're going to do this a lot like if you were adding them. We're going to go in and find our like terms. Notice I'm starting with my variables. Notice that I put a box around them. This may be something you want to do as you work on this worksheet. Okay, these are like terms. So when I write this down, I have to be careful because it's 6x minus negative 8x. Alright, see how I did that, and see how I put parentheses around the negative 8x? I only did that to kind of make it stand out. Notice that there's two negatives because I am subtracting a negative 8x. Alright, now let's go in and find the other like terms. Well, that's 42 and 20. Okay, so when I write that down, I'm now going to have open parentheses 6x minus open parentheses again negative 8x close parentheses plus open parentheses 42 minus 20. Alright, now I have those parentheses in there just to show grouping. There's no reason to have them in there. I just like the way it looks. Okay, now when I go to put this in the calculator, be really careful because notice I am subtracting here. I'm not adding. And again, I'm subtracting, taking the 42 and I'm subtracting the 20. But look at, I add those two things together. Notice where the subtraction is and notice where the adding is. Okay, it's time to pick up your calculator. We're going to put in there what? 6 minus negative 8. Okay, that is going to get you your coefficient for your x. Or, in other words, how many x's am I going to have when I get done? Okay, then I'm going to put in 42 minus 20. What's your answer? Did you get 14x plus 22? Good job if you did. It's time for you to do some work on your own. So get your worksheet and your calculator and let's go. The first problem on your worksheet for subtracting is going to be h of x minus k of x. Now that looks a lot like what we just did, but before we had k and we were subtracting h. Now we have h and we're subtracting k. So carefully write it down on your worksheet. What are your variables in h of x and what's your variable in k of x? Let's write them down first. Remember, we are subtracting the like terms, not adding, but subtracting. Now we need to go get the constant in each of the functions. And again, you are going to be subtracting. careful as you write this down. Pick up your calculator, work on your variable, subtract the two terms. They are like terms, but subtract them. Write your answer down. Then go to the two constant, the two like terms. Subtract them and write your answer down. Your turn number 2 subtracting. Stop the video if you need to have a little extra time. Okay, it's k of x minus g of x. Alright, this one's going to be a little bit more difficult because you'll notice that g of x has a negative 4x in it and a negative 12. So be careful when you combine like terms. Again, you're going to start out with your variables, write them down, make sure you are subtracting. Remember, you're going to subtract a negative 4x. Now let's go get the constant. You're going to take the constant, and again, be careful you're subtracting a negative 12. Make sure you get enough negative signs in there. Okay, don't get confused. Pick up your calculator, do the math. What you get for your answer. All right, subtracting number 3, your turn. Okay, what are we doing this time? Well, the worksheet says g of x minus h of x. Don't forget g of x has a bunch of negative terms in it. Write them down carefully. We're still going to do the same thing. We're going to come in and we're going to work with our variables first. So carefully write down your variables, remembering you're subtracting the h of x from the g of x. So you're going to write the term down from the g of x, subtract the term from the h of x. Now come in, look again at your two original functions, get your constant out of each of them, and remember that g of x was negative, and then we are going to subtract the constant from h of x, so be careful when you do that. Pick up your calculator, plug all this in to your calculator, and find the correct answer. Write it on your worksheet. What did we learn to do in this video? We learned about subtracting functions. We learned to write it in function notation. We learned that subtracting functions was a lot like combining like terms, except this time, instead of adding our like terms, we subtracted them. Well, you're now done with this video, and you should be done with your worksheet, so turn it in to your teacher.